Welcome back to Rich Bish Era. I am so excited for this episode. We have Renée Warren in, who has the best tagline. Like when you reached out and we were talking about this episode, I was like, there could not be more of a perfect one-liner on her Instagram to know that she is going to deliver so much value in this episode. She is all about rich girl energy. And this woman is incredible. She's an award-winning entrepreneur, an angel investor, an author and podcast host of Into the Wild, which is a top 1% podcast. She's the founder of the Pink Skirt Project, which we will talk through this episode, which is immersive gatherings of ambitious women ready to elevate their impact. If that doesn't get you excited, then you just wait to hear more. And she's been an entrepreneur for 25 years. She's built and sold a PR agency and has been featured in publications like Forbes, Business Insider, Entrepreneur Magazine, and more. And she really has a gift for seeing potential in people and is very passionate about breathing fire into women, which is what we are all about here, and belief into women as well. So I'm very excited to get into this episode and talk about some topics that have been very alive in the content on both of our pages lately around rich girl energy, confidence, and actually getting rid of a poor girl mindset and really stepping into that like Rich Bish Era energy. So I'm very excited to have you here. And I love that you're even in the country because you reside in Canada, Renée. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's such a joy just dropping in and doing this in this beautiful studio. Yeah. It's a beautiful city with beautiful people.
Yeah, I love doing in person. There's so much that we can dive into. So let's get into it. Let's start with rich girl energy, which is like, I feel like it's your term. It's really like who you are and what you preach and what your businesses and your projects are really like anchored in. So what does that term mean for you in your world?
So I'll tell you a story about this. We're December, the time of this recording, and we pull back the layers. And about 6 years ago, maybe less, I can't even keep track of time these days, my husband bought his first supercar. And it was an orange McLaren. And it was the only McLaren in the province of Canada, like one of the provinces we're living in. So it drew a lot of attention from the car people. But I grew up in a beautiful household. My parents taught me you deserve the things in your life you worked hard for. And so riches for me was like people that took advantage of other people or like walked all over their toes. And so I associated wealth and richness with being aggressive and rude and just taking advantage of people. And as my husband and I started to develop our wealth and grow it and expand, it really stuck to me. And I didn't like having fancy things. I didn't like being in fancy cars. And I didn't even share this beautiful house that we had built because I was so worried about being judged because I was starting to live the life of the people that I despised. And there's this whole mindset around being wealthy and having nice things and nice trips and being able to travel the world. And I needed to shatter that mindset. And so there was a day where we were driving in the McLaren and everyone was looking at us and I hated it. I was like hat on, sunglasses on, trying to hide. And Dan's like, people know who you are. I'm sorry, this is a small town. It was like one supercar and they know who you are. And I did not like that feeling of like me sitting in this car thinking everyone's judging, everyone hates me, or they probably think I'm a gold digger, like all these things. Until it wasn't maybe a few months ago. Even that it really sunk in. So what happened was December of last year, we had the honor of walking around our town to live in Kelowna, British Columbia. And we got to distribute $250,000 of checks to charities of our choosing from our own income from that year. And these big checks, surprised these charities, walked in and we're huge advocates for helping youth mental health. And $60,000 check, $100,000 check, and unannounced. And to see the organizers just cry and say, you guys are angels. Where did this come from? Why us? That's when I realized, wait a second. this is the best gift of all. This feeling right now to be able to help somebody out is like the most exquisite feeling. And I said, wait, this is really what being rich is. Because we're such great people. We don't take advantage of anybody. We employ so many people. We give back to community. We give so much that we're actually the anti of the rich, where what I thought the rich person was. And, I came from a middle-class household. My parents both worked really hard. And so for me, I was like, wait a second. I get to do this. And the best feeling was handing those checks out. The best feeling was getting tagged the other day from one of those organizations saying, hey, you guys helped us fund 60 kids to go skateboarding, downhill mountain biking, skiing. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to afford it. So we can fund a kid experiencing those things. And that's the ultimate gift. And so you have to be super wealthy, have a lot of money in your bank to be able to do that. You need to have the mindset that you can, and everybody should. So when I started to feel that, wait, being wealthy means that I can give more and pour more into my community, I want more of that. So then I was okay driving in the supercar to the point now where I'm telling Dan which one I want to drive and reserving the car that I want to drive for the weekend, where I can have nice watches and nice bags and go on nice trips and be okay with it and actually not care what other people think anymore. And I get more comments than I did. Those people are showing up. People that I knew would show up are showing up, and they're saying their things. But they also don't know what goes on behind the scenes, because as you know, as an entrepreneur, we carry the biggest risk. We do the most work. We worry the most because we're holding it all together for our team. But we have a mission. And so for me, just leaning into this rich girl energy was the gift that I needed for myself, but also my community, because I've created the Pink Spirit Project, which was a movement. And in it, there are multimillionaires and there are women who barely have 2 pennies to their name. They're all showing up in the same space with that same hope of helping elevate each other, as well as just pouring into the sisterhood. So rich girl energy is all about a belief, regardless of what's in your bank account, that you deserve everything you have in your life. And also the best gift is in the giving.
Money in the hands of good people is what changes the world. And I talk about this a lot on this podcast on, really removing and releasing the conditioning around money and what you were brought up to believe, and, the environments that you've been in, that money is evil, or it's greedy to have money, or you should feel guilty if you have more than the average person. So I love that you shared that story. And if you're willing to share, it sounds like you've actually had quite a beautiful impact on your parents, witnessing them, like the story about them upgrading their...
Oh, girl, that you heard that. Yeah. That puppy. Yeah, my parents are so cute. They're 80 years old, and they've been married for like 55 or 56 years. And they're like super frugal. They're the same people that have had the same plastic containers since I was in grade school. Okay, in their kitchen that they still use, which are probably full of like toxins, whatever. And they're also the people that eat every scrap of leftover food. That's just the frugal. And my dad's like the MacGyver. He tinkers. Like, something's broken, he will fix it, right? He's the kind of guy that you send out into the woods with a toothpick and a knife and he builds you a shelf and mops. And when they come, we would fly them around. And like at first they felt really uncomfortable for us paying for their tickets. And I was like, listen, do you want to see me or not? Because I want to, so just don't worry about the cost. We got this. Yeah. And then the last time they came out to visit, they had to fly across Canada, which is like a little bit more than flying across Australia, which I forgot how big your country was. And they bought their own tickets. And then the offer, they said no. So it was a week before they were flying home, and my mom comes up to me in the kitchen. She's like, no, she's super French. She's like, Renée, so do you think I should upgrade our tickets to business? And I look at her, I'm like, are you drunk? Where's my mom? Like, where is my mother in this? Because she would never say that. And I asked her why she thought that was a better idea. And like, for what it was worth, it would have been like, I don't know, $1,200 to upgrade for them, which was a lot of money. She goes, I like how easy it is, how much space we get, how like all the check-in process and all that. And I told her that they deserve it. And so she went back downstairs and talked to my dad. And before I know it, they're upgrading to business. And there's no shame. There was no judgment because she got a taste of it. And she's like, why not? Why not just do this? I honestly thought my parents would be the last people in the world to upgrade to business on their own dime. So it goes to show that we can be the beacon for people to treat themselves. And also, like on this whole like rich girl energy thing, kind of where the seed was planting and believing in the possibility of what you can do to give back was during the pandemic. We caught wind of a lot of the smaller but important organizations that had to shut down because everyone else was shut down. And one of them was the school meal program. So we learned that there are kids who pretty much get their own meal, like their own meal that they'll eat, the one meal they'll eat in a day at school, the lunch. They don't get breakfast, they get lunch. They probably go home to a broken household and there's not much food. And I'm like, how do we live in a country like this where kids rely on going to school to get fed? And I said, this isn't fair. So how can we feed these kids because they don't have, say, school to go to now? And we talked to some people and they said it'd be like, $900 for the week to help like one district. And we said, okay, so we're running like these little checks that accumulated to about $50,000 because we thought it was only 2 weeks, the pandemic, right? When I first started. So we're like figuring out which organizations to support. And then I turned to my husband and I go, it's very unlike us to do this, but why don't we write a press release? Because then the world's a PR. Reach out to the media and share that we're doing this only for the hope of inspiring other people to do the same thing. And we did. And what happened was it turned into like this giving crew, and we encouraged pockets of people from all over North America to give. And we estimate that just by showcasing the one little deed that we did, we helped inspire almost $2.5 million of localized donations to happen from people that could contribute. Wow. So when we're afraid and shy to like showcase the great things that we're doing, women tend to do this. We don't know who we're actually inspiring.
And the permission slip that you're giving, that's by just showcasing that is huge. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it's the best gift.
Yeah.
Like when I forgot my Prada bag on the plane, because it's going to happen, right? Traveling the world, it's going to happen. I had my driver's license and the 3 credit cards I've been using on this trip that I really needed. And there was some other stuff in the bag. And all I could think about was, I don't care about the bag at all. There's nothing about the bag that I care about. I just need those 4 pieces of plastic so that I can do what I got to do. Yeah. So it wasn't so much this connection to the possession, but also it's, we're kind of shifting gears here, but it was the connection to being able to afford that and knowing I can replace it, but I don't have to. I didn't want to. But I wanted those 4 pieces of plastic. So like rich girl energy is believing you can and believing you deserve it, deserve everything you have. Like coming into this room, rich girl energy is watching you record a show and also being so damn excited and honored that I'm going to be a guest on your show. And like sitting here in this beautiful studio and then going to grab a coffee, like just honoring this and honoring these moments. It has less about like the fancy things, everything to do with the belief that you can and that you deserve it. And that was kind of the impetus to launching the Pink Skirt Project too.
Let's go into let's go into that actually, because I've got so many questions here.
I'll give her.
Like talk us through, like where did that inspiration come from? How is it going? Like what really sparked that idea?
So the spark was this crazy download. I think it was in 2018. I was sitting at a dinner table with a bunch of girlfriends and we're going around the table talking about what it means to be successful. And they were answering, blah, blah, blah. So-and-so was saying this. And the whole time I had this like very clairvoyant image of what success was for me. And I couldn't figure it out. It was me on a stage in front of thousands of women wearing a pink skirt that I've never seen before, getting a standing ovation. And it's like, okay, that's cool. And I just kind of put that on the shelf. And fast forward to 2019, and I'm going to the Alt Summit in Palm Springs. And part of this big event is like it's for creatives and entrepreneurs. There was fashion shows. And I'd never really been to a fashion show before. So I was like, you know what? Let's grab my friend, like, let's go sit front row at a fashion show and just hang out. So we go to this fashion show by the label House of Perna. And the designer is Amanda Perna. And I'm sitting there all anticipatory of what's going to happen. And the first model that walks down the runway was wearing the skirt of my vision. And it was like the squeeze my hand moment. My friend Ange is like, wait a second. I was like, that's almost exactly the pink skirt. This is crazy. The color, the style, the everything. And she's like, well, you got to buy it. Like, I'm sorry. In that time, I was like, I can't afford this skirt. And also, but I wear it. So my friend Ange reached over and she squeezed my hand. She's like, it's that skirt. And for me, it's like, that's exactly it. It was the same style, the same shape, the same color, the same length. It was like this, picture like almost like a poodle skirt, but it's not. It's more modern. It was just exquisite. And then she asked if I was going to buy it. And I was like, no, I can't afford it at the time. And where was I going to wear this? So like life happens. I get back home. And then it was like a year or two later, I'm telling this exact story to my friend. And she goes, well, did you buy the skirt? It's like, did you buy a skirt? It's like, go online right now. I'm not hanging up the phone. Did you buy a skirt? And so I did. Forgot it. I totally forgot about it. And then because it's like kind of custom, but it's not like mass produced. So it took months for it to arrive. And I totally forgot about it until one day it just shows up. And I'm like, okay, why is this skirt so significant? It's a damn piece of clothing. So it led to me kind of partnering with another friend, this idea about what the pink skirt is. We actually put together a pitch deck because we're going to pitch Netflix or Prime to actually have a TV show. And we hired a production company in Toronto and we're going for it. And one day I just pulled out, I was like, this isn't it yet. Could be, I don't know. But this is really not what this is about. It's something more. It's bigger than just a show. And there's no disrespect to shows, but I needed to figure out what it was. So I went back to that original vision of me standing on stage. And I said, it's an event. And there's thousands of people in a room, but you never launched your first event hoping there's thousands of people that'll show up. So we filled the room. Free over 300 women. This happened only this past June 12th. And it was packed. It was energetic whole damn day. The moment we opened the doors, the moment we had to kick people out because they wanted to stay. We created a movement. So June 12th is officially the Pink Skirt Day. So the International Pink Skirt Day, where you wear a pink skirt to feel empowered, to feel like you can do it. You can do the tough things. And this movement is really about creating community, sisterhood, like getting rid of the cattiness, getting rid of the competitiveness, and just having more compassion and empathy and really showing up to help each other. Because you can't do life or business alone. You need that support. And I think most women just failed to really put effort into creating that community or managing it or fostering it. And I wanted to just bring a room together of women that want to rise, regardless of what level of business they're at, and want to show up in a safe space where they can just be themselves. And that was what the Pink Skirt Project became. And now it's something else. So it's fun. It's challenging. I've never done this before, so I don't know what I'm doing. But our event next year will be bigger.
Okay. Amazing. We've covered the Pink Skirt Project and how incredible that's going to be next year. So we'll make sure that we have information in the show notes so that you can go and check that out. I also want to talk about confidence stacking because this seems like it's a real Renée terminology as well, and that there's a story there behind it. So what do you specifically teach around confidence stacking, and what are your most powerful tips to actually bring that into your life?
So the stacking is kind of like looking at it from the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. where like the top of it is actually the rich girl energy. And there's different layers to this, and we won't talk about all of them, but we'll talk about the basics. I identified that like the bottom part of this pyramid is being stuck in jail and unconsciously knowing that we are kind of handcuffed or the victim of our life circumstance. So you can look at, like these stories of like Greg's to riches people, right? Those people never use their life or their trauma to actually keep them stuck. And they broke out of that jail. And that part of like transitioning to the next stage is that understanding like this conscious unraveling of the fact that sometimes we live a life, we've created a life because it's what's expected of us. And it's not what we want to live. And so then you break out of jail. And this is all confidence stepping to the point where you get to the top, which is rich girl energy. And through these transitions, it doesn't happen just once. Like sometimes you float in and out of the stack. You become the person you've always dreamed of, regardless of what you think is expected of you. Like, we could talk about motherhood. Like, I felt the intense pressure to be a stay-at-home mom. I don't know if you ever had that conversation. And it was never what I wanted to do. And this even came from my husband. It's like, you don't have to work. You don't have to earn money. You are good. You can stay home. And I'm like, and do what? Take care of the kids? Like, that's just not who I am. And I know that might trigger some people, but I don't want to be a person who stays at home with her kids all day. I'm not designed that way. I want to go create and I want to build community. I've always been doing this. And so when I was stuck in this like bottom of like, conscious unraveling of these expectations, because these are just like whispers from society, whispers from friends and relatives saying, why don't you stay home? Or why don't you do this thing? Or why don't you become a teacher or a nurse? It's more predictable. It just was kind of like, I'm going to be a rebel and I'm just going to not do what you want from me. And when you come out of that stage, which is the hardest one to come out of, because it requires you to actually face the crap sandwiches you've been dealt your whole life. It forces you to face your trauma and your fears. But when you go through that motion and you work your way up to the top, that is when you actually become the woman most people have already seen you. The problem is that when you're stuck in the jail, there are people that are also so insecure and they're playing this like vicious cycle of victimhood. They don't want to see you shine. Because then they'll feel like, well, don't leave me. You're going to abandon me if you continue to grow. Because we know those people that we've had to leave behind. And it sucks because they're people you might love and respect. But rich girl energy is like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to show you what's possible for you. It's up to you to decide if you want to do this too. She becomes a beacon. And in that, it's building that confidence. But the confidence stacking is like, confidence is not something you're born with. It's something you build. You do one crazy thing and then you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. I have a really great example that's like so recent. We got to Perth, Australia, like a week ago. And we talked about this and we're having coffee. My husband and I are walking outside and I'm like, oh my God, there's so many good looking people here. It's crazy. Yeah. Like, what's in the water? And like the women, I'm like, what? And like the perfect butts and they're wearing those like scrunch butts, like braided breading shorts and like tight. And I'm like, what? And like, and even the women that would have the quote, like perfect body according to society standards are wearing these outfits. Kind of like, yes, you go girl. Maybe Renee can wear these too. So I went to a little shop and I bought a couple of those like scrunch butt shorts, super tight. And I put them on in front of my husband and he goes, what? Like, I never thought I'd ever see you wearing something like that. And I was so insecure. And he goes, all you gotta do is walk out the door. Walk out the door wearing them. And like people will see you and like no one's really gonna notice or they will. And I was like, okay, this is a really hard thing. I'm really self-conscious. I'm gonna do it anyway. Walked out the front door wearing those little jazz shorts. And nothing in my leg changed except for that I felt more confident in my body because I was doing something I was so insecure about. And so this is like confidence stacking. So now I built that. I was like, oh, I can wear those shorts anytime now. And I didn't even kick them off for like 2 days. He's like, okay, enough now. Enough. But in business, it's like raising your prices. In marriage, it's like telling your husband or your partner, hey, listen, I'm not going to do school pickup every single day. This is ridiculous that those standards are on me. As a leader, it could be firing that toxic employee. And first time I ever have to fire anybody is so tough, but he's done it once. Now you're like, that's easy. So it's really just about having the courage to do the hard thing. When you actually do it, it's never as bad as you think. And it enables you to do it more often. And you really just, you got to build that courage to go and do. Because if you can't do the hard thing, you can't grow. And you also can't be the leader that your people need to see from you.
It sounds like it's like the courage to do the thing that you know you need to do and like step out of your comfort zone, and also being radically honest with yourself. Like with that story that you just shared, like you wanted the damn shorts, go buy the damn shorts and wear the damn shorts, right? But also with, not wanting to be a stay-at-home mum, which I resonate so deeply with, because there is no way I would ever get fulfillment from that. I love my 3 kids more than anything in the world, and I am not a good person when all I do is around them 24/7, unless we're on holidays or something. But it's never what I wanted either. And I think when a woman can be radically honest with what she wants and like actually sit in that truth, that and act on it, what you're saying is actually act on it and like stack that confidence. It's so empowering. So let's talk about that, translating this to social media, building a personal brand, contents, like the way that you show up online, and the way that you show up for your community or your business. So in terms of confidence stacking and the personal brand that you've built, how has that played a part? Like, how have you been able to build confidence in the skill set that you now have?
Oh yeah, it's for me, it's like it started with podcasting. And like we're on episode 400 and something now. And like the first 100 episodes were so not who I am now. But also look at timelines. That was like 5.5 years ago. But it's like anytime you get to do something that stretches you just a little bit outside your comfort zone as the confidence building. And showing up online, doing lives, sharing reels, doing posts, which I've actually been really crappy at lately, traveling the world. It's been exhausting. But it's like, it's incredible how many people you inspire. And all it takes is putting something out there that feels a little bit vulnerable and one person saying, wow, that was great insight. Thank you for sure. Most people don't know what to say. They actually do. They just stop themselves because they're so afraid of those negative comments.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, the thing that made me completely change my mind about negative comments, because they've come and they hurt, was when someone got absolutely diabolically offended by the fact that I shared this meme about the instrument called the recorder. I don't know if you guys have this in Australia.
Oh, yeah, do we have it?
A sad dying cats. And I don't know why this was the thing that and I think it has to do with because it was the least expensive musical instrument to introduce to the school system, and it like teaches you basic music theory, whatever. But it was a meme that I shared from somebody else's account. And basically it was like, I can't believe they forced us to learn this instrument. Yeah, most people can't even balance a spreadsheet or something, whatever. And I was like, yeah. And then I added a note by saying something like, yeah, we haven't even learned how to pay our own taxes. That's it. Okay? 99% of people were thinking, that's funny. I hated that instrument. And I had one woman that went to town on this comment. And it was so absurd that it made me actually realize that it doesn't matter what you say or what you do. Someone's going to be offended. And it has nothing to do with you. She said, how dare you say we don't learn music in school? I'm like, never said that. We could just choose a better instrument. I don't know.
Yeah.
And like paragraph after paragraph of just like explaining, you're an influencer, Renée. You should be very careful what you share in the world. I go, very careful. Never thought I would offend somebody. And let me tell you, I have talked about some spicy topics and never got that level of like negativity to comment from sharing how terrible the sound of the recorder is. So wow, I'm like, all right, if this is the worst I'm going to get with that, like bring it. Like, yeah. And once you get these negative comments, the cool thing about it is they're public, you can delete them. Sometimes they're worth kind of keeping there and they're worth like letting people have their own conversations because it helps the algorithm. And if you build community and you just show up as who you are and you're nice and kind and you're gracious, your community goes to bat for you. Yeah. I shared a post a couple years ago. It was a B-roll my camera girl shot of me during a photo shoot. And we were in this like transition of like changing out of certain outfit and getting ready to actually shoot the podcast cover for my show. And the shirt was being ironed. And so I had a black bra on and it was cold. So I put like this oversized blazer on to keep warm. I was waiting for someone to iron the shirt. And she looked at me. She's like, wait, this is actually kind of hot. Can we just try this? And I was very self-conscious. I'm like, it's not a brand. I'm not like this. It's just not wham. And she took some videos of me just dancing around. And I looked at it as like, okay, I'll give it a shot. It's very uncomfortable, but I'll try. And it took me months to finally post it. And I posted the video, a reel, and like the copy over it was like something about, being confident. And the first comment was exactly the reason why I never posted that content to begin with. A woman went to town saying, why do we think that confidence is a woman being like half naked? Why does like, and it had, it's just like perpetuating this idea. And then I was like, I was so upset by it. I didn't want to comment. So I put aside, come back to it an hour later. All my franks, my community just were like, you don't know Renée. And I'm like, okay, my work here is done. I don't have to do anything because what the community. So that's the thing is like, if you're true and you're authentic and not everything about what you do is polished and perfect, then people see the real you. My content for most people is relatable. Like I want women to believe that wealth and richness and having money in your bank account is relatable. And I'll have like the nice watch and like the private jet. Yes, we have this stuff too. I don't post as much about it, but I want to know that I used to be them, but now I had access and I have resources. And it comes like that the confidence thing and the content just comes with knowing. Doesn't matter what you say and what you do, someone's going to be offended. And it's just a matter of like ignoring it, like on to the next. It's fleeting. Right? They'll forget about it and they'll just move on to the next person to leave a comment about.
I love that you brought up authenticity because I wanted to ask about the authority arc and actually like building a brand and building a personal brand and credibility and authority whilst still being really genuine and authentic. So the PR in you obviously knows this. And so let's talk about the authority arc.
So this was a concept that I created during my PR days. So I was in PR for like 13 years. We talked about this. You had lived that life too. And I realized in all the work I was doing, the people that got the most press coverage that got on the podcast, and this was kind of prior to the days where this switch happened in the industry where it used to be where you would get PR to grow your following. And now you needed to have a big following in order to get PR. So before that transition happened, the people that had the best stories, that were most authentic, that they were just like really passionate about one core thing, were the ones that were getting all the interviews. So when I looked at like what that meant and the pattern, it was the authority arc and being authentic and constantly putting yourself out there. And having standards, being the ones to create the standards and abide by our own standards and being consistent. And like it's like this loop. I was like doing this over and over and over again. And the work that goes into that, the hardest part of it isn't like figuring out the strategy or figuring out the messaging or the positioning that's important. It's just effing showing up. And most people think they need to have this polished strategy for podcasting or being on social or being interviewed or doing PR helps, but really it's just about showing up. Jen Gottlieb, who is an incredible entrepreneur, she wrote the book Be Seen. She was actually a speaker at my event last year. She talks about her content. She's like, we have a strategy in social media, But as soon as we start to see our content isn't doing as well anymore, we go right back to the drawing board. So there's no such thing as like a 6-month or 12-month plan when it comes to PR or social. It's kind of like it's very short timelines because you got to like test things and see, is this going to click? Cool. Sometimes it's trending and then it dies down. So you got to move on to the next thing. It's about consistently showing up, knowing things are going to be crappy. You're going to have really good interviews, bad interviews. You're going to have great content, crappy content. That's just part of the process. The cool thing is that you can delete some of that stuff. It sucks, but I say leave it and move on because the more content you create, the more it gets pushed down. And it's also a learning lesson. Like the more reps you can put in to recording episodes, to being on social, the better you get. As long as you go back and you listen to yourself, as long as you go back and you just pay attention to how you can improve. And it's a long game. Like, yeah, I think about how long I've been on social and I'm only just starting to take it seriously. And like my husband, Dan Martell, is an example. He's got like 2 million followers on Instagram now. And I know everything that went into that. And it's a whole team. There's like 20 people and there's a process and there's a strategy and there's standards. But most people are unwilling to commit to that. And what I think is like, especially for 2026, my prediction in the name of personal branding is you need to be our media company. You have to. Like, it's the only way to get noticed is that, and by saying that, what I mean is that consistency, the intention, and showing up and doing all the scary things, being on stages, like throwing your name in the hat or in the ring to like do something scary, hosting your own big event, which I know that you're doing, starting podcasts, being on podcasts, pitching the media, like it's doing those scary things consistently that's going to get you to that next level.
Yeah, and also Daniel Priestley talks about that too, on like being on multiple different platforms and your audience spending hours of time with you. Obviously a podcast is a great, source for that, but also the lives, the videos, the authenticity, and the energy that you get from content that you can't get from just sometimes a picture or reading a post. What's your prediction for content specifically on social media in the next 12 months?
I think, honestly, more in-person stuff. Yeah, like AI is so crazy now. It is so hard to tell whether or not that lion protecting its baby cub is real or not.
Yeah.
It's like the videos are insane. Even my husband, who has an AI ventures company, was showing the stuff that he's creating just for him and using his voice and video. And I'm like, dude, I almost don't even know that's not you unless you told me. So that's why in person is huge. Like, do we these things? Because like, sure, AI can create this, but then hosting in-person events, whether it's like 5 people or 500 people, create community, show up. Like, ladies, open up your calendars, look at what's happening for 2026 and sign up and go to those events. You can't afford it, BS, figure out how to get there, become a volunteer, whatever. Not only is this going to expand their community, it expands and it stretches you in ways that you didn't even know were possible. And that's how you develop this community. And, when it's all said and done, the most important thing you had was your network. And in 2026, the only way that you can really expand that is showing up. Yeah. And shaking hands and offering support and having conversations, but also genuinely being interested in other people. Like, I see a lot of accounts out there using Instagram as an example. Where they put out some like decent content, but they're not engaging with other people. It's like, it's almost super selfish. So I would say go out, comment 5 people, like, share their stuff, be that person's biggest cheerleader. There's a woman who's coming on board my team as our full-time creative director starting in the new year. And she came into my life as a volunteer for my event. And while she was getting trained up on that, she's like, I'd love to manage your social media account for the event. So we got her situated, and she had a very cushy job in the government. And with its like, government jobs, they have like the pension and they have great maternity leave and like all the things, like all the wishes. And it just wasn't filling her bucket. And she's like, Renee, someday I know I'm going to work with you. And at the time, I'm like, I don't know how or when, but sure, I agree that's going to happen. But she showed up on a volunteer basis, working with a team that she dreamed to work with, helping me create the foundation for what became her full-time job. So when you can actually just like do the scary thing, whether it's free or paid for, but know with conviction, this is where you need to be and who you need to be with, all the doors open for you. And now she's so excited. She's like messaging me all the time, and I can't wait too, because I can only imagine what that's going to mean for my brand. But my 2026 prediction, get in the room, get on podcasts, like whatever is like in that little brain of yours, like, I want to write the book. Writing the book. What is stopping you from writing the book? If you want to start a podcast, do it. If you want to be on podcast, do it. If you want to train to be a professional jiu-jitsu fighter, what is stopping you? Like, nobody's actually holding you back. Unless you're being changed to something, then that's illegal. So call the cops. There's nothing stopping anybody from doing the thing except for themselves.
Yeah, I love that so much. And also, even since like the pandemic, the last like 5 years, people are craving that connection, you know, and you're right. Like, you can't tell most of the time if something is AI, and it's only going to get better. Like, it's only going to improve as we go along. And so, yeah, with content and also networking, I feel like you and I know this because we come from PR. Like, I always say to people, your network is literally everything. The relationships that you have in business is everything. And perhaps people that don't come from that background, that don't understand how important and valuable relationships are in business, may not understand this. What is your biggest, I guess, piece of advice around networking strategically, but also like building those relationships? Because women that help each other rise together, and that sisterhood value of yours as well.
Cheerleaders, be someone's biggest fan. We have the Pink Skirt Society, which is our group coaching program. And we also have the Pink Skirt Fund. So the fund is really this like where we put some of our profits into, and it's just like this pocket of wealth that we distribute as a hand up to other women that aren't in position to be able to afford coaching program coming to our event so that we can support them. But the women that are there on those coaching calls, and let me tell you, they're the hungriest ones. And in that room, they're there because, now I've lost my train of thought. They're there because we support, the networking part of it is, they showed up as the biggest cheerleader. They're like sharing my content, writing reviews for my podcasts, emailing me something that I said that's changed their life. And they're just proving to me like they want it, they're hungry, and I've done something for them to inspire them. We all have that in ourselves. So, and there's some women that came to my event last year too that didn't know anybody, and they've never been to an event like that before. They were super shy. And I was like, okay, team, like all the volunteers, is like, this person's showing up. She's by herself. She just had a baby postpartum. She's being very vulnerable. Can we please treat her like goddamn queen? And she got treated. So there's other women. I was like, you know what? Free your body. No, I'll tell you what. I will give your friend a ticket if you guys both promise to come. And they were the first people to buy the tickets for the next year. You see how it works?
Yeah.
It's like when people feel seen and heard, oh my God, they'll do anything for you. And that's how you create community. That's how you network. Nobody owes you a goddamn thing. Just know that the more you can pour into the people around you, it comes back in ways you never thought possible.
I love this because environment is everything as well. Like being around other ambitious women, visionary women, women that want to rise, like, you know, a rising tide raises all ships. Like, it's such a powerful, and you're right, in-person events, you can't get the same thing online. Obviously, there's many options for online communities. I run an online community, and I know and I see when we do retreats. I just did a retreat, and, you know, we did 3 last year. Yeah, like, it is so powerful when women come together in person. So I love that. I also want to talk about identity upgrades because I feel like some people may be listening to this and thinking, but I don't deserve to be in that room, or I'm not worthy, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not successful enough, or whatnot. And, you know, upgrading your identity, it's part of it doesn't actually matter where you're at in business. You're always going to be, like scaling to the next level and needing to have the identity that matches that. How has that happened in your journey? Like, what advice do you have around like stepping into the next version of yourself so that your success and results can follow?
So I, like many women I know that I've talked to, thought about identity in terms of how successful you are in business. So this is like for female entrepreneurs. And I went to a mastermind 2 years ago now, where I was invited to. In this room, there were 30 entrepreneurs. Cody Sanchez, Jenna Critcher, Amy Porterfield, Susie Moore. I'm missing so many exquisite people. And I'm sitting there thinking, who am I to be sitting at this table giving any of these people any sort of business advice? Because I bought their books, I bought their programs, I studied them. They're like, who am I? And super nervous. I went and you did this like whole like fundraiser thing, and we're on TV, and I'm sitting next to Marshawn Evans and Patrice Washington, and it's like day 2, we're going to leave, and I'm leaving, and I kind of saying bye to everybody. Amy Porterfield takes me aside. She's like, hey, like, I'm really nervous, and you did really great. So I just need to give you my cell phone number, and we can stay in touch for funsies. And I'm like, what's funsies at the Amy Porterfield? This is crazy. And changed phone numbers, and then she took my hands, and she's like, Renée, you're in this room not because of what you do, but because of who you are. That changed everything for me. You see how one little comment can change someone's life? I'm like, wait, I'm here because people like me for me, regardless of anything I did or didn't do. And I just vowed to make every single room a better place because I was there somehow, some way. Little things in public bathrooms. Take a little extra paper towel and I wipe down the sink around me. Say hi to the person who looks like he's having the cracked day. Like, genuinely be invested and interested in the space and the energy and the people because of that one thing that she said. And so now my identity became the person that just makes room a little bit better, a little bit brighter. Imagine we all did that. Every single person did that. One little thing. And so your identity is everything to do with who you are. Most people deny that. Most people, follow a path that they think they need to follow. Like, my dad was a lawyer, my mom was a lawyer, so I'm going to be a lawyer. And maybe you're a good one, you get paid really well, but there's part of you that's like, I don't want to do this. That sucks. Because people can feel that and sense that, and that energy's off. And we can actually just like live most of our lives, because not everything's perfect, in alignment with who we are. That is your identity. Oh, and by the way, your identity shifts as you shift life too. From like single, unmarried, to married, to parent, to entrepreneur and parent. Different identity shifts. But at the end of it, the through line is just who you are in those moments is your identity.
I fully resonate with so much that you're sharing. And also part of what you've said there in the story that you've shared makes me think about the identity shift between putting people on pedestals and seeing them as peers. And I had a similar experience where I was actually the coach that I worked with. She, many years ago, 6-7 years ago, invited me for a coffee at the beach. And I thought, I wonder if we'd had a session down there. And she actually just wanted to be my friend. And I'd put her on this pedestal. And now, 7 years later, she's one of my closest friends. But it was that moment. And it's happened twice. And actually, the other person it happened with, Christy Ord, I'm running an event with her this weekend. And she's one of the most successful women I know, like extremely successful. And those two moments were really big upgrades in my identity where I was like, oh, wow, I'm a peer to them when I've always put them on a pedestal. And now I need to upgrade my own identity, or it's actually going to kind of like, I talk a little bit about toxic humility, where it's like you can be humble, but it can be toxic if you're too humble. And, tall poppy syndrome, which Australia and Canada both have, of like, you want to be humble, but also it can be quite toxic and to your detriment if you're too humble and you don't step into the identity of actually what you've created and actually what you've achieved.
So Here's a question for you. These women, and we talk about like the pedestal, and these could be mentors, coaches, like people you admire, who you study, bought books, listen to their podcasts. And was there ever a moment in watching them do what they do that ever made you envious or jealous?
I think from a money perspective, I wanted to get to their level, definitely from an earnings perspective, but definitely not jealousy. I just saw them and was in, like, I love them both so dearly, and I have so much admiration and respect.
So, yes, I have my next question to that. So that's good. Correct answer. But what about these women lit you up? So that's part of the question. And then did it surprise you at all? Like, genuinely, did it surprise you that they wanted to be peers? Or are you sitting in those moments thinking, okay, this is what I vision. This is actually happening?
What I really admired was actually seeing them both in their zone of genius. That nothing lights me up more than seeing women in the absolute zone of genius, and they both were. And I've witnessed that, and it's what I love and respect about them so much. But yeah, when it happened, I guess I was like, and this comes back to my next question around worthiness. Like, I was like, wow, I'm shocked and humbled, and also just like quite surprised that you see me on the same level as you. And then obviously as the friendship is formed, I'm like, you know, we both, it's such a reciprocal friendship. Like, we both bring so much to the table in the friendship, as any good friendship does. But I think, I just got to that point where I was like, wow, I didn't see myself that way. And it was a really big mirror to my own worthiness, like how I saw myself.
It's kind of like, they're holding your hand and saying, like, we want to pull you because I know you deserve to be here. Yeah. And a good human that you are, and now you're extending your hand out to that other woman now. And that she's like, so it's like this chain where it's like the sisterhood of just like pulling each other because they need that little extra help. And then you kind of slide into this next version of you and you're like, wow, what is this? What do I do with this? Now I'm here. But, you know, those coming back to authenticity, when you actually look in the mirror and you're like, okay, this is the version of me that deserves this. This is the Jessica that deserves this, or the Renee that deserves this. It's like all these doors start to open and you don't even know it's happening. And that was like the mastermind I too. That was like having Lori Harder at my house and speaking at my event, to then subsequently flying to Newport Beach to be at her house at a dinner. And she was someone, same thing, as like mentor her, admire her, and now we're friends. Like, what did I do? It's like, I did everything to be in this moment. It's not like, it's not like it's a lie or a joke and can't be taken away. It's really happening. So you did all the things you needed to do, but also to be open to accepting the fact that now you're that person. And you're probably that for many women.
Yeah, and I'm curious to hear from the women that you mentor and also your own experience, what helps to increase the worthiness and really see yourself at that level? Maybe you already are, or maybe as a future-paced kind of ritual to get your identity to that level.
Okay, for the women that I mentor, we're just going to use an example and one story of a former coach, friend, woman I love, messaged me one day, and she asked me about how to reduce the amount of taxes she can pay on the Porsche that she wanted to buy. And I'm like, oh, you finally feel worthy of this thing. She's like, I figured I'm just going to do it. That was it. Just doing it. Like, the first luxury bag that I bought was a Chanel bag, the iconic Chanel bag, which was way outside what I can afford. And I said, I'm going to buy this now and I'll pay down the debt over the years, but I'm going to become the person that wears a Chanel bag, that spend my own money. So you can force yourself into these positions too. And by the way, luxury bags don't change you. They don't. I've had them all. But it was the identity that comes with thinking that you're the woman that deserves the Chanel bag that you spent your own money on. It really comes back to just doing the thing. Like, a lot of people talk about the book they're going to write or the podcast they're going to launch. Most people don't do it. Imagine actually doing it. Weird concept. Yeah. Because then you have to become the person because you're forced into the day-to-day grind. Yeah, of writing the book or writing these episodes or flying across the world. It's just doing. Action speaks volumes. That's like the real influence is in the real currency is in the doing. Yeah. Can't get buff without working out. can't feel confident in scrunchy shorts unless you actually put them on.
Yeah, 100%. It's in the doing. And, actions do speak louder than words. Many people can say they want something or have a big vision, have a goal, but, how many people actually follow through with it? Yeah, absolutely love that. I also love that what I've picked up from what you're saying is like the standards that you hold for yourself and really becoming that woman. So, when you were speaking about flying business class or first class that your parents upgrade into, and also even the designer handbags, once you do that, you can't go backwards because your new standard, you've set a new standard for yourself, like especially flying business class. Like once you experience it, you can't experience like economy anymore, which means you have to rise to the occasion of being an income earner that can always fly business class. Once you experience using a luxury designer handbag, you can't ever go back to using a cheap handbag because your standard has now risen. And that's a great thing. It means that you now have grown into the identity of the woman that has those things. So is there any last comments on that before we move on?
Thanks for asking, because I love the example of handbags, but here's where the ultimate standards come. When you're raising your standards, you're raising the people you surround yourself with, meaning that you have to let go of people. And you don't have to do it maliciously. We did this the other day. My husband asked me if a certain person can come on trip with us, and I haven't spoken to this person, thought about this person in quite some time, and I was like, well, it's weird, and I did not want them there. And old me would have been like, yeah, that's fine, they can come. New me was like, I'm requesting that this person not come. And they're like, why? And I'm like, this, and this. And I don't want to explain myself other than you asked me a yes or no question. So then you're going to get a yes or no answer. And I said, no. And it's that. Because I'm protecting my energy, and you and I and Jake over there all have this incredible opportunity to protect who has access to you. And most of us just don't do that. And it sucks, especially for people pleasers, to say no to people, to cancel events, to like turn people down. But at the end of the day, it's like you gotta prune. You gotta trim those hedges and make sure that you're surrounded by the people who are your cheerleaders, see the vision, want you to rise. They want you to win more than you do, because they will make sure that you're making the right decisions. So raising your standards, and for me, for 2026, is the standards of the people that I surround myself with.
I love this whole topic because I'm also hearing between the lines of like, just remove yourself from being the people pleaser and have your boundaries and listen to what's happening in your body. Like you were an instant no, and you didn't pretend that it wasn't a no and like force yourself to try and convince yourself of another answer. Like if it's a no, it's a no. And women know, like we are so intuitive, we do know. So I love that. Final question. I couldn't do this interview without asking about family life and the fact that you have Irish twins that are like, less than a year apart. Your beautiful boys who are 12 and 13. You've been traveling the world this whole year. You've achieved so much on your own terms, like in building a PR company, selling it, like, all whilst having the boys that you have as well. And also being married to Dan Martell, who is a very, well-renowned entrepreneur and best-selling author. I want to ask, like, how do you keep it together, but not in a way of like, oh, we outsource meals and we, have a family calendar. Like, of course you do it. And those things are brilliant. But in terms of like the actual mindset of before all of the money, like all of the success came, you guys were really in the thick of it. Like really in the thick of it with like raising a family, having boys, like both having, very ambitious goals. How do you think your mindset and the way that you and Dan have worked together has helped you to like not crumble, but actually like really rise together?
So it was the biggest thing. Well, first of all, when Dan and I first started dating, we were both secretly very into personal development. I was embarrassed by it because this was back in the day when you had CDs for your cars. And I had like all of these CDs with like John Maxwell, Darren Hardy. And he knew, and I knew too. So if you're with somebody who is into personal development, you know that you can figure stuff out as you go. But I will say, there were many moments in a relationship that, I'm surprised we're still together. just in sense of it being like when you have new works, you're exhausted and you're trying to grow businesses. And, we by default just fell on traditional norms of who doesn't buy in the household. And I'm old me, the people pleaser, who's like, of course, I'll do mornings and nights and evenings and all the routines and grow my business. And finally, I was just like, nope. I go, you need to step into because you're also the father. And then we slowly started to outsource like the meal prep and all that stuff. But really what it came down to was we did so much work and still do every single day, like by ourselves, internal work. We have incredible spiritual therapists that we've worked with for many years. And then we did like couples therapy. The biggest thing and the most shocking thing that happened to me, this was recently, like 4 years ago, was when you're actually doing therapy, you could do this with a business partner or you can do it with a friend, is that there's like 99% has nothing to do with the other person. And it has mostly to do with you. So like this whole time we're like deliberating on these like things that have happened. And I was like, yeah, it's Stan. And Stan was like, it's Renee. And she's like, but why are you triggered by that? Why are you triggered by the dishes being by the sink? When you guys first started dating, you said, it's okay, I'll get that. It's my job. You don't have to worry about that. Like, because I didn't speak my truth. And like, the more you put it off, what happens is that you're going to break one day. And now all of a sudden, people are going to think you're a bitch. Because now you have standards. Now you have boundaries. You have to set those boundaries up from the very beginning. And the best way and the best word to use in that is when someone asks you for something and you want to make a change in your life, use the word requesting. I'm requesting that we get meal prep, and here's why. I'm requesting that you do pick up at daycare, and here's why. I'm requesting that I have every Monday evening off to have a bath, and here's why. It's not you're mandating it. You're saying, I'm requesting this. Like you're putting it in like a suggestion box. But the moment your need is heard, then to the emotionally mature person, they'll consider it. So it's the mindset thing in the relationship is also knowing that we're both climbing different mountains. There's not the same mountain. We have different needs. He knows that the more that I can dip into my feminine as the wife and him into his masculine, the better. I'm not showing up at home in a masculine energy and expecting that I'm going to have an incredible husband and vice versa. So it's just constant work. But here's what happens. When you work on that marriage component and you're doing everything you can do to have a 10 out of 10 marriage, it trickles into your business. It trickles into parenting. Like your family gets better. The most people come home and they just give whatever's left over because they spent their day working or on their business. You got to pour into your marriage first, yourself, and then your business. And your kids really should not be the ones that should be in the top 3. Yeah. It's crazy because when mommy's happy, yeah, everybody's happy. 100%.
Yeah. Oh, I love that you've said that. So one final question, and this is more to do with your own professional business journey. Has there been a moment where it's just almost broken you? Like you've just on your knees, almost about to quit?
Many moments. And I tried to justify the alternative to what I was doing. The perfect example was something happened with my podcast, and they had a duplicate of my show on Spotify. We didn't know this, and it was happening for years. So, conversed with the team. They're like, we should delete this duplicate show and just keep the one because we want to confuse people. What happened was it affected our ratings because you're getting they're all these reviews because there were hundreds of reviews, and which then affects you getting sponsorships. Then it affects a lot of things. And it was kind of that moment in time. And I'm like, do I continue doing my podcast or not? And when I went and looked at our analytics and it just I was like, okay, this is God saying you can keep going or not. You can throw in the towel or you can take this as kind of a kick in the pants to change something. But that's just one example. There's so many times. I had a business partner get belief. I've gotten sued for wrongful dismissal, which was all the things in business that could happen did. And every single one of those times, heartbreak and crying and thinking, why am I doing this? This is so stupid. The alternative, get a job. clock in at 9, leave at 5, get 2 weeks vacation. And I'm like, wait a second. You can sue me all day long. I just don't want to live that life. So it's really looking at like, yeah, are we really trying to take the easy course or really trying to take the aligned course? Because alignment looks messy, it's confusing, and it comes with a lot of resistance and contraction, but also a lot of things you have to give up. But it tends to be the right way to go.
Yeah. Thank you so much for all of this. There's been so much value and just nuggets, absolute gold in all of this whole conversation. I want to hear the exact dates for the Pink Skirt Project. We do have it in the show notes, but like, why should we all just hustle to be there, especially the Australians?
Okay, so first of all, I learned Australians just naturally travel far anyway. We thought you're very used to it. There is a direct flight from Sydney to Vancouver. Yes. But then you had to take a little pedal hopper to my town. So we're in Columbia, British Columbia, July 9th and 10th. And 2 full days. And it's this part of Canada, it's a slice of heaven called the Okanagan. It's a valley, it's a glacier lake between 4 big mountains. And it's the most exquisite little part of heaven that we think, we want to show it off. Last year we had incredible speakers, 300 women. This year it'll be 450 plus. And yeah, we want, if you're a female entrepreneur and you want to be surrounded by sisterhood from women from all over the world, come to spend in your pink skirt. Yeah.
Yes, I love that. Amazing. Thank you so much. So follow Renée. Her Instagram is in the show notes. There's more information on the Pink Skirt Project in there as well. And please share, tag Renée, tag myself, share what your biggest takeouts were from this episode, and make sure to share it with another sister who might get some value from this conversation as well.
Thanks for letting me.